Hello, everybody. Before we enter into the content tonight, I want to give you a brief introduction of the thing I'm talking about. It's the it's Dream of the Red Chamber. It's a it's an 18th century Chinese novel authored by Cao Xueqin, considered to be one of the four great classic novels of Chinese literature. It's known for its psychological scope and its observation of the worldview, aesthetics, lifestyle, and social relations of High Qing China. Before we enter the garden, nobody tells you the exact day use ends. It may be the day you stop asking, "What do I love?" and start asking, "What can I afford to be?" The day your family, money, marriage, work status, or fear begins to decide which version of you is allowed to survive. Dream of the Red Chamber is a Chinese novel about that moment. Not used as innocence, used as the last brave country where a person can still be more than their role. Inside the Grand View Garden, young people write poems, make friends, fall in love, compete, laugh too loudly, and even private names for themselves. Not because life is easy, because for a moment they have a war before usefulness take over. Outside the garden waits a name they will be forced to become. An heir, a wife, a widow, a cucumber, a servant, a success, a disappointment. Chinese culture gave this conflict a language. Qing is what we move the human heart, and attachment, feeling, desire, love. Li is the order that tells you where you belong. Dream of the Red Chamber doesn't ask whether feeling can defeat order. It asks something harder. When the world needs you to become someone else, what part of you must not be allowed to die? This is not a story asking us to stay young forever. It's asking whether adulthood must always make us less alive. Because every one of us has had a garden, a place, a season, a group of people, a version of ourselves that we did not know we're losing until it was gone. Let's enter the most beautiful place they could never keep. Have you ever loved a place because you knew it was disappearing? Maybe it was a college dorm, a summer with friends, a first apartment with people who feel more like family than family, a neighborhood before the rain went up, a city before work, money, illness, marriage scattered everyone. You may not have owned the world. You may not even have understood how fragile it was, but for a while, it made you feel more like yourself than anywhere else. 300 years ago, one of China's greatest novels built that feeling into a garden. It was called the Grand View Garden. It had poetry, moonlight, flower, music, private rooms, secret conversation, young people not yet turned into adults their family needed them to become. But it was also built with someone else's money. It existed because of someone else's power. And one day somebody else would decide it had to end. This is not a story about an old Chinese garden, it's about the most dangerous kind of happiness. The kind that is real, but was never yours to keep. This garden begins with a daughter who can come home. Before the garden became a place of poetry and friendship, it was built for a political event. A daughter of the family, Yuan Chun, had been taken to the imperial palace. For her family, this was supposed to be the highest possible honor. Their daughter had risen, their family had gained status, their name was now connected to the throne. But there was a cruel irony at the center of this success. The higher Yuan Chun as their daughter rose, the less she belonged to her own family. When she finally returned for a ceremonial visit, everyone must obey palace rules. Imperial officials decide where the family may stand, where they may kneel, where they may serve food, where they may speak, and where they must withdraw. Even inside their own home, the family has become an audience to power. And Yuan Chun herself, the woman whose status makes this garden possible, begins to cry. She says something astonishing. She remembered that even poor family with one simple food and rough clothes can at least live together, but her own family is rich beyond measure and still scattered. In other words, we have everything, and somehow we don't have each other. This is the first thing I want you to understand about the Grand View Garden. It is not born from freedom, it is born from separation. A family builds a paradise because their daughter has become too important to come home. This is a rare human tragedy. You get the job, you get into school, you move to the city, you rise, and then you realize the thing that makes your life look successful also took you away from the people who know you before success had a name. So the garden asks its first question: what's the point of rising in the world if the world you're rising no longer feels like home? Secondly, a palace built for one night. The Jia family spent an enormous amount of money building the garden for Yuan Chun's visit. There are waterways, bridges, pavilions, halls, flower bird lamp, ornate room, theatrical performances, religions, attendants, and carefully designed views. It is not backyard. It is a private kingdom built to prove that family is worthy of imperial attention. The garden is so elaborate that Yuan Chun herself looks around and says, "This is too extravagant." Extravagant. That sentence matters because the novel never lets us enjoy luxury innocently. The beauty is real. Craftsmanship, craftsmanship, emotional power is real, but somebody is paying for it. Someone is organizing it. Somebody is laboring to make it look effortless. This is one reason Drain of the Chamber feels so modern. It understands something we still struggle to see. Beauty never only beauty. Every beauty world has an economy underneath it. Think about a luxury hotel, expensive wedding, perfect university campus, a curated social media life. You see the flower, lighting, clothes, and architecture. But behind every perfect image are workers, delivery, cleaning, money, planning, debate, exhaustion, and people whose name you never know. The garden is beautiful, but it's not innocent. Then something strange happened. Power lifts, and youth moving. After Yuan Chun returned to the palace, she worried that the garden will be sealed up and become lonely. So she gives an order. She tells the family to let the young woman live there. She also tells them to let Jia Baoyu, her younger brother, move in with them. She doesn't want the place to remain closed. She doesn't want beautiful women to languish or flower and villas to lose their color. So a garden built for imperial power becomes something else. It becomes a world for young people. This transformation is the emotional miracle of the novel. A state built for power becomes a place for private life. A monument to family status becomes a place for friendship. A garden built to impress the emperor becomes a place where girls write, joke, argue, dream, fall in love, and begin to discover who they are. This is why the Grandwood Garden matters. Young people don't build it, they don't own it, they don't control the money behind it, but they inhabit it. They give it a soul. They take a world built for austerity and turn it into a world where inner life matters. This is not unique to China. Think about a student dorm, a career community, a punk scene, a friend group that takes over a cheap apartment, a place created by someone else money, someone else city, someone else rule but made alive by the people who gather around here. The building may not be yours, the lease may not be yours, the institution may not be yours, but for a while, the life inside it can feel like yours. This is the beginning of the Grand View Garden. And who gets to name a place? This is another detail that is easy to miss. The garden is not only built by power, it is named by power. During Yuan Chun's visit, she gave the garden its name, Grand View Garden. She renamed several of its most important places. One residence becomes Shaoshang Lodge, another becomes Henwu Court. Baoyu Space becomes the Crimson Joy Core. Names are not decoration. Name tells us who has the authority to see what a place it is. That's still true today. Who gets to name a neighborhood? Who gets to name a city project? Who gets to rename a street? Naming is power, but the novel gives us second kind of naming. The powerful can name the building. The young people give the building memory. Dai Yu chose the Shaoshang Lodge because she loves its bamboo and quietness. Bao Yu chose the Crimson Jericho because it fits his own restless and sensual, colorful spirit. Later, the young men will give themselves literary names. They will write poems, they will turn rooms into emotional landscapes. Here is the tension. Power gives a place its official name, but people give a place its lived meaning. This is why you may still miss an apartment that was ugly, a school you couldn't wait to live. It was not the building you loved, it is the version of yourself that existed there. Youth is not an age. It is a period before the whole world finished assigning you a role. This is where the Professor Oli Juan's idea of the garden as the kingdom of youth becomes powerful. Not used as cute innocence, not used as everyone is happy, used as a suspended period, a period before the world has finally decided what you're here for. Inside the garden, the people are not fully reduced to their future roles. Dai Yu is not yet only a marriage question. Bao Chai is not yet only the suitable wife. Tan Chun is not yet a new daughter whose intelligence will be limited by gender. Xiang Yun is not someone dependent on relatives. Bao Yu is not the son required to become a proper man. For a while, they can simply be raider, poets, friends, rivals, people with private feelings, dreamers. This is why the garden feels close to people today. Many of us have known a time before the world became a series of roles: employees, parent, spouse, caregiver, citizen, provider, or success story or failure. Maybe it was high school, it was college, it was the first year you lived away from home. It was a creative community where nobody asked you for a resume. Youth is not only about being young. Youth is the brief period before the world has finished assigning you a role. And the tragedy of the garden is not the adult who must come. The tragedy is that adult who often arrives without asking, who did you want to become? Bao Yu. About Bao Yu. What if you have everything except the life you want? Jia Baoyu is born into enormous privilege. He has money, servants, education, beauty around him, protection from his grandmother, a garden full of people who understand him more than the adults in his family do. When he first moved into the garden, the novel said he felt completely satisfied. He seemed to want nothing more. Then one day something changed. He became restless. Nothing feels right. He's bored. He leaves the garden. He doesn't know what he wants. This is not just a rich boy complaining. It's one of the most modern questions in the book. What if your life is comfortable but not altered by you? Maybe you have the degree your parents wanted, the job everybody congratulated you for, the lifestyle you were told would make you happy, the apartment people envy, the relationship that looks right from outside. Something you say, this doesn't feel like my life. Bowie doesn't have a shortage of comfort, he has a shortage of inner consent. He's been prepared for a future that is respectable, stable, and socially approved, but he doesn't believe in it. This is why Dream of the Red Chamber becomes more than a story about old China. It asks questions every ambitious society should fear. Is success still success if it requires you to become someone you can inwardly agree to be? Comfort is not consent, privilege is not purpose, and a beautiful garden can answer the question, what kind of life is actually mine? The garden is beautiful, but it's not equally safe. We need to be careful. The garden is not a feminist paradise. It's not a place where everyone is equal. The daughters of the powerful family have room, books, time, attendance, and protection. But the young women who serve them don't live the same life. Each residence has older attendants and mates. Every poem, meal, party, piece of clothing, candle, and flower arrangement depends on work. Some people in the garden have time to write about flower, others have to keep the flower alive. This is one of the deepest things in the novel. The same house can be paradise for one person, danger for another. The same institution can give one person a chance to fund themselves while forcing another person to work through exhaustion. The same university can be a freedom for wealthy students and debate for another. The same city can be culture for one person and drain anxiety for another. The same family can be protection for one child and control for another. The novel refuses to let us forget this. It doesn't say beauty is fake. The beauty is real, but it says beauty without equal safety is fragile. The same house that gave one girl time to write poetry can force another one to carry the weight that makes poetry possible. This is why the garden is not shallow nostalgia. A Chinese garden is not nature, it is way of thinking. To understand why the garden feels so alive, we need to understand something about the garden itself. It is not supposed to be untouched wilderness. It is designed, arranged, framed, created. The novel repeatedly makes you turn. A hill blocks your view. A path opens onto water, a bridge changes the scene, a window frames a tree. A small space suggests a much larger world. In chapter 17, the family walks into deliberately designed rural scene, earthen walls, apricot trees, huts, farm tools, vegetable plots, chickens, and geese. It looks like a village, but it is an aristocratic imitation of a village. It is feels arranging poverty into an aesthetic experience. The detail is extraordinary, but the novel lets us enjoy the beauty, while also asking what has been removed to make it beautiful. The dirt is arranged, the labor is hidden, the poverty is harmless because it has become scenery. You have seen version of this today. Luxury apartment marketed as industrial, restaurant built to look rustic, rich people buying simple life as an aesthetic, city romanticizing old neighborhood after the people who made them alike can no longer afford to live there. The garden not just showing a Chinese garden, it's teaching us to ask what has been turned into beauty, what has been hidden in order to make the beauty comfortable. This is a deep Chinese literary idea. A landscape is never only landscape, a room is never only a room. The outer world becomes a way of seeing the inner world, and the inner world changes depending on where you stand. The garden doesn't give you an answer, it changes the question as you move. Why we enter the garden? So why should someone who had never read it care about this place? Not because it is exotic or beautiful Chinese fantasy. You should care because the garden understands something we'll know but really rarely see clearly. Sometimes the happiest part of your life is not a thing you own, it is a world you temporarily inhabit a group of friends, a neighborhood, a city, a room, a relationship, a version of your body before illness, a country before a change, a period where you were not fully afraid of the future. The garden asks us to hold two truths together. First, you should not refuse to love beautiful things just because they will end. And second, you should never confuse beauty with safety. This is the danger of the garden. It's beautiful enough to make people forget that it also depends on the family, fortune, hi- hierarchy, servants, imperial favor, and rules that young people inside did not create. The garden is real, happiness is real, friendship is real, poems are real, none are protected by beauty alone. The Grandview Garden is not tragic because it disappeared. Everything disappeared. It is tragic because the people who made it beautiful never had the power to keep it. They could write poems there, they could make friends there, they could fall in love there, they could imagine another life there, but they couldn't own the money, the land, the rules, or the future. That's why this novel feels so close. Many of us know what it means to live inside something beautiful that we can't control. A city, a relationship, a career, a country, a season of youth. It doesn't tell us to stop loving things because they end. It asks something harder. How do we love a world fully without confusing beauty with safety? So that's for today. It is a series. There'll be many characters, many people who live in a garden that I will talk about one by one in the future. So maybe next episode will be the girl who built a world in poetry. Let's see. Thank you.